Now this is behind the scenes of Mahal's
Record
obsession.
with Mahal. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're going to think that I really hate your dog from the way that I talk about her. And I just need to clarify that I don't. I adore Mahal.
We have some of the most beautiful photos of you guys cuddling and sleeping.
Her fully asleep on me, on my bosom.
Number one frenemy.
Number one frenemy.
That's you.
That's you. Because here's the thing. No one else puts her in her place in that way. You got to keep her humble. I keep her humble.
Like you and me, or?
Yeah. It's a metaphor.
Because Aaron doesn't listen to the podcast, I explained to him in our Q&A how I was like, yeah, my number one pet peeve of you and Gabby is you're the only two people to tell me no, and you guys are always right. And he was like, oh my God. Because
here's the thing that people don't realize about Meadow is that because Meadow is so great and so wonderful, she's like, where the fuck are you going with this? Because she's so great.
I know where you're going.
And she's so wonderful, and you hold such great space for people, and you're super chill. Like, you're not a high maintenance person.
Yeah. Get to it.
You're very high maintenance in certain things, and people don't know that about you. Like, you are the definition of like a little princess when it comes to certain things. Like, you revert back to that photo. We need to like insert it somewhere of you on your dad with your tiara.
It is the photo that explains my entire existence.
Yeah. Grab Mahal. This is why. This is why I need the listeners to understand why Mahal is my number one frenemy, because she's so cute and she's so sweet. But like we turn on the recording and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. Yeah.
We get it.
Anyway.
You know what? She's me in my arms now crying. Oh my God. The whole joke's on me.
Anyway.
Speaking of children.
Speaking of children, guys, we just finished having the best conversation with our friend Amrit.
We love her so much.
We love her so much. She is a DJ extraordinaire, entrepreneur extraordinaire. She's DJ'd
nonprofit queen.
Nonprofit queen. She's worked with some of the most incredible brands, DJ'd for the most incredible events from every designer you could possibly think of. Worked with everyone. And she's just the coolest, most welcoming, like energetically fucking
grounded,
dope person,
fun, flowy. Yeah. Just the best.
Ever. Amrit's amazing.
The OG meme queen.
How did we
Not
forget?
saying our social strategy is based on her, but it might be.
Listen, we all get inspo from somewhere. She's the blueprint.
And we talk about it. Yeah.
And we talk about it. We talked about so many things. Meadow and I were so excited to have this conversation because Amrit has been so generous with sharing her wealth of knowledge and experience with the internet and is super open about all the experiences she's gone through. As of late, this past year being the fact that she's gone through 3 pregnancies, 2 miscarriages, and now she's in her 3rd pregnancy with her healthy baby girl. And she announced that in the same week that she announced that she was engaged and, by the way, also married. And like, she just has been so generous with all of that. And we were so excited to have her on because we haven't had that conversation on Thoughts May Vary about miscarriages and the shame that comes around with it and like the sort of burden that we as women carry. Meadow, I know you've been wanting to talk about all the pregnancy cues. So this was a really fun conversation.
Yeah, I'm not sorry at all that a lot of it was about pregnancy because I'm trying to get pregnant tomorrow. And talking to someone that's this open and honest and vulnerable and grounded about pregnancy was so much fun.
It was really great. She was so just like fucking gracious with the amount of stuff. Like off the bat,
she's a TMV girly. Like we all speak the same language. We had so much fun in this conversation. Like, she speaks our language.
You know it's going to be a good episode when you send the email being like, hey, is there anything off limits? And you get a response being like, absolutely not. Ask me whatever you want. I'm like, great.
Exactly.
Great. So we talked about pregnancies. We talked about miscarriage. We talked a lot about all the shame wrapped into that. We talked about her dating apps. We talked a lot about her coming from a South Asian family and growing up. Well, we didn't really talk about her growing up in Singapore, but just all of that cultural differences of growing up in Australia, being born in Singapore, coming from a South Asian family, and how that sort of has infiltrated interracial marriage, how that sort of infiltrated the way she talks about dating.
Ayahuasca?
As we're doing right now, there was a lot of interrupting.
Yeah, sorry about that.
we were very
excited.
It's going to sound, if you've been here from the beginning, this is an OG TMV episode.
Yeah, that's true. But that's why you love us.
Why you tune in every week. Please continue to do so.
Please also rate and review.
Rate and review. We also came out with hats.
Oh boy, did we?
Boy, did we. We're going to have a whole episode about that. But yes, we have a hat.
Go buy it. Thoughtsmyberry.com. We also have a website now. Thoughtsmyberry.com. Thoughtsmyberry.com.
Guys, Meadow is a coder. Who the fuck knew?
It's all
I
thanks
sure
to
didn't.
2007 Tumblr.
I sure did not know this about you.
Yeah.
You built
my Tumblr girl side really came out during this project.
I need you to hear the fact that I just said webisode instead of website.
Let's go. This is long enough. It's time
to go. We are, by the way, sorry we missed last week, but here's an hour and a half. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. We made up for
someone
it.
Amazing. Please enjoy our episode. I got to
We gotta go. Amrit, we love you more than life itself. Come back anytime and call me to babysit. Bye.
Enjoy our episode with Amrit. We're back.
We're
live. We're
Hello.
Live.
Hello.
Welcome to Thoughts My Berry. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God. Please.
The way we freaked out about you coming on.
Oh yeah, we did.
When Gabby messaged you.
I've wanted to come on for so long, but I wanted to have stuff I could talk about.
This is the
guys.
Perfect timing ever.
You're my meme queens.
That makes me so
We've
happy.
never been called that yet.
Really?
Yeah, the validation just skyrocketed. You're going to make our heads grow like 3 times in size.
Absolutely love it. The value's gone up. The price has gone up.
No. You guys heard it here first. Follow our Instagram because we post really fucking funny memes. And every Friday we post the best TikToks on planet Earth. But listen, hold on. You're like the OG meme queen.
That is true.
Let's just circle that back.
Thank you.
Because
that's why the compliment gets even more intense. Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it because I got so much shit in the beginning for it. Because like now I feel like it's cool. And everyone kind of does cool. I'm not going to say that, but I will say in the beginning, like my team or like brands I work with would be like, what's going on? Because, like some, especially like luxury clients who are like on the safer side. Mm-hmm. And they don't want you to be like, buy my like beautiful expensive watch and like, here's an anal plug. So it's like back then, like in the beginning, now it's kind of like acceptable because I think TikTok normalized like that type of humor. And so now that's like the limits aren't as, but I feel like the
limit does not exist.
The limit doesn't exist. It doesn't anymore.
No, it's true. It's true. Cause we were just talking about this offline, but like Amrit is the blueprint for so many things in our lives. So like, let's just acknowledge that the blueprint began with you of the memes in the roundup, because now everyone does it, including myself. Like, I feel like if I post a roundup that doesn't have a meme in it, I'm like, this is boring.
Incomplete.
I will say I can't take credit for it because I'm like Tumblr and I love Tumblr and Pinterest and like all those image sharing apps. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I'm making the memes. And that's why when people are like territorial over it, I'm like, none of us made these memes. Like, this isn't original content. It's like stuff floating around on the internet. Like, it's not your IP.
Right.
Like, it's just like a joke. It doesn't matter.
We have had at length discussions about how no art is original. Like the fact that people think that they can make, a sweatshirt with whatever on it and think that someone else copied it. And I'm like, babes, like you think any art or creativity you have is not drawn from the same inspiration? Like,
also, I think that an idea means nothing.
Exactly.
It's about the execution. Because I know a lot of people who are like, oh, I thought of that first, or I wanted to do that. I'm like, but you didn't.
You didn't.
And that's also directed at me because like I'm a Pisces, I'm a procrastinator. So I'm like, oh, you should have done something about it. It's my inner dialogue.
Have you read that Elizabeth Gilbert book? What is it called? Big Magic or something? It's literally about how inspiration is this thing where like when ideas come to you, she describes this feeling of like running to go type it down immediately, because if it doesn't come out while it's moving through her, it'll find someone else. Like she wrote like half of a book that was so hyper specific and never finished it. And then 2 years later, like literally read someone that wrote her book. Like ideas are energy. So like if you don't act on them and use through them, they'll go to a body that will move through and express them.
I love that.
Because we're just the facilitator. Like we're just the facilitator for the idea.
Exactly. So we should like humbly facilitate.
Humbly facilitate. You heard it here first on TMI.
And everyone does things differently, like, because there are a million like ideas of or prototypes of a dating show or Instagram live or a music, like, you know, it's what you do that matters. So it actually really doesn't matter if 5 people are doing the same thing, because you're going to do it in a different way. Unless you think you're interchangeable, then, you know, but we're not. So,
but that's a deeper issue.
But we're not.
But we're not, so we don't have to worry about that.
No, literally. It's so true. I also was thinking about, I was having this exact conversation the other day with like, haven't said it on here, but like my boyfriend, have a boyfriend now.
Oh, wow.
I know.
Soft launch.
Soft launch. Everyone welcome.
No, he's been so hard launched. You posted his face. You were like, I'm never going to post him. And then next day, you're like blasting him all over. I was like, okay, sure.
He'll never be tagged. He'll never be tagged. Side note, was getting my nails done yesterday, and my nail tech, Anna, who's like my favorite person ever, was telling me that like she had a boyfriend once, that she posted his face and everyone kept being like, tag him, blah, blah. And one time she made the tag, but the tag said like, bitch, you thought. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking do that.
That's so good. Yeah, you have to do
you
that.
Fucking thought. But anyway, we were having this exact conversation, and I was telling him like, I'd had these ideas growing up of certain things, blah, blah, blah. And then I never did them. And then I saw like other people do it. And he said the same thing to me. He was like, you didn't do it. So like, what are you sitting here complaining about? Like, just fucking do it. Like, if you have the idea, write it down and like get it done. Cause like,
also, I think when we see other people do it, then we get scared.
Yes.
And we're like, someone's done it already, but they're not going to do it the way you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And like vice versa. Mm-hmm. So it's all about like, you know, your perspective on something.
It reminds me of when you take someone to MoMA and they shit all over contemporary art and they're like, anyone could do that. I'm like, but did you?
But you didn't do it.
But did you?
But did you?
You were just pissy. You didn't make millions off of it. And they
also
did.
Like maybe your mind doesn't interpret in this abstract way. And like,
exactly. Like this wasn't your expression. You have a
luxury mindset. Not apply to everybody. Exactly. I always say taste can't be taught. You can't please everybody. Yeah.
That's you really
true.
Can't.
Yeah.
You really can't. Yeah. Listen, Emma Chamberlain's house in AD just came out today. And
I saw.
It fucking slaps.
Stunning.
It's
stunning.
So good, yeah.
Stunning. And my favorite person ever, Mayor Russ, who's AD's West Coast editor, he wrote the piece. And like working with Mayor was like one of the true joys of working at AD, to be honest. And I read the piece, and literally the last line is a quote from Emma. And she's like, I don't care if nobody likes this house because I love this house and I'm the one that lives in it. And like, that's all that fucking matters. So like,
period.
Exactly.
Period. It was literally the last sentence.
I need to read it. I haven't read it yet. I just saw the photos, but stunning.
And they did a video too.
Best AD video I've seen in a while, because she knows how to work a camera, and that girl knows how to talk. Like, she knows what she's doing. So she's funny. It's cute. It's likable. It's gonna perform well. I pretend I
love that she tagged everybody.
Yes,
in the credits, because a lot of people with interiors won't like go into that much detail of like specific interior, this, that. She like did a full credit tag, which I appreciated.
Abundance mindset. She's not gatekeeping any information. She's like, you're not going to put together the exact same house and make it feel the same. I'll give you any information you want.
Exactly. Also, none of us are on her budget, so she was like, "Okay,
period.
You can have a budget." She's like, "Cure all the, you know."
I literally was just telling Meadow, I was like, OnlyFans, here I come, because her fucking light pendant over her dining table, $31,000.
I know, so nice,
so great.
But you know, I'm sure you can find something similar.
Yeah, there's always a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Listen, so we start every episode by asking our guests to tell us about what they're unpacking. It could literally be anything from like, we always use poor Teffy. We've put her on blast 75 times. We always use her as an example.
We love you so much, Teffy. I'm so sorry.
Well, you guys are Miami crew.
Oh yeah, Teffy's the Miami sister, but we use her example all the time because, like, listen, she came in because we've had some people telling us like very deep things, and then we have Teffy who was like, I can't take a shit in front of this new guy that I'm seeing. That's what I'm unpacking. So
amazing.
There's a range.
But that's deep too.
It is deep.
Right? It just hit. That's why she's deep. The example, because it still hits. It really hits.
There's a lot of levels.
Because it's like, am I not good enough? Am I not ready?
Yeah. Shame. We can talk about it all.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Poop shame is real. So, Amrit, what are you currently unpacking?
Well, I'm unpacking pregnancy shame.
Ooh.
Because, well, as you guys know, and maybe you're not familiar with my story, new listeners or new people to my life, is that I have been pregnant 3 times this year. and I had 2 miscarriages, and now I'm pregnant again. Yay. And I'm just under 17 weeks. So this is like the furthest that I've ever come.
Okay.
And of course, like, I'm so excited, but I'm also like working my way through all my fear of like, am I doing this right? What if I make a mistake? Like, what if something happens again? Like, am I sharing too much? Is my bump not big enough? Is my bump too big? Like, the spirals that you have as a pregnant woman. Like, I thought that I had insecurities before, and now I'm like, oh, it's a whole new level just to unpack there. Because you're like birthing a child, so it's like double. It's like not even about you anymore.
It was, Amrit, it was literally my first question for you because this past weekend I was hanging out with my good friend Ellie from high school. Hi, Ellie, if you're listening. And she has the most incredible baby girl, Cece. And we were talking about how ever since becoming a mom, her people pleasing is just fucking done. She was like, it's not about me, it's about her. So watch me stand up for her. But then it's so interesting because certain things like that can get wrapped up real quick. And then immediately you're well aware of all the other shit you now have to work on. It's like, it's almost like mom guilt already in pregnancy. Is that what it is?
It's so crazy. It's crazy. It's 100% that. And like, you're learning so much on the go, obviously, especially if it's your first kid. And like, then you go into this like cyclical thing of like, you do something you're not supposed to do. And then I, especially because of my like previous experiences, I'm like, can't believe you did that. You're such an idiot. Like, for example, like I ate pineapple, which like is not a well-known thing, but apparently it has like an old wives' tale. Like they would eat like an entire pineapple if they wanted to like miscarry the baby. Like back in the day,
pineapple like, was good for you if you were pregnant.
No, it can cause essentially. I don't know about the technical terms, so please don't quote me.
Sure.
If you look it up, you'll see the correlation that it can cause early cramping and like can increase your chance of miscarriage or like early labor. And so of course, like I was like eating this like pineapple, like this is so delicious. And afterwards, my sister was like, "Don't you remember that grandma used to say like back in the day, like if they, you know, someone needed to like terminate the pregnancy, they would like blend a like pineapple and drink it." And then I'm like I can't believe I'd kill my unborn baby. Like, why would I do this to her? Like, what did she ever do? Yeah. Like, I'm a bad mom. How did I not know this? But like, how would I know that? You know?
Right.
And so I'm like teaching myself the patience of like, and having the grace to be like, it's okay. You don't know everything, and you're not ever going to know everything.
Yeah.
And you just have to like learn as you go.
Can we back up and walk through the trajectory of all 3 pregnancies in 1 year? Because I want to know how that affected your body. I want to know how that affected your mental health. As someone that's trying to get pregnant literally yesterday, I want to know, but spare me no detail.
It's so much harder than it looks, firstly. Because I think we're so used to media portraying it in a certain way where it's like, I got knocked up, oops. Like, and you're like, oh. And obviously that happens. It's happened to me. And that's the other thing is like, if you've ever had an abortion, when you're actually trying to have a baby, you're like, oh man, I regret it? Not at all. But like, you do think about that as well.
Because you're like, oh, it's so much harder than I thought. Yeah. Was that my chance?
Yeah. I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be easy. Like, did I waste my like one time? But obviously everything happens for a reason. And I didn't know that the body was even capable of being pregnant that quickly close together, because like I never had a period. So I got pregnant, I had a miscarriage, and then I got pregnant again straight away. Wow. No period in between.
Wow.
Had another miscarriage, and then after the second miscarriage we were like, and is this even like possible to like get pregnant 2 times in a row and have 2 miscarriages with no, like we were like, what's going on? And then
within like 4 months, or how long?
Within a year. So within a year. So all 2022.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And that's why the other thing that I'm unpacking is like having like, you know, grace and like patience with like body changes. Cause like, of course, like we live in a world that like values physicality, and like a lot of our work prioritizes like image and the way we look and fitting into sample size and whatever, like all these things that like, you know, normally you have like your own hang-ups about, and then like something happens where it's so out of your control that you just have to be like, I don't even know anymore.
And that feels so hard. We talk about this all the time too, in terms of like people act like clothing is so superficial, but for us and for some people, maybe not everyone, it's such a deep experience of self-expression. And I feel like for someone like you that's so artistically inclined anyway, like especially as you feel like you're changing and growing and working through all the stuff that comes with newly being pregnant, and then you can't even reflect that or fit it. It's just, that feels like it's so much more weighted than people give it credit for.
It's also hiding too, because like clothing is self-expression, right? And it wasn't really like, obviously we're fashion girlies and we love to, like, it's how we express ourselves. But a large part of why I was like, I don't feel like myself and I got into this like funk, like depressive funk, was because I was hiding so much, right? Like it was so nice to just be like, I have a bump. This is what my body looks like. I don't have to hide anymore. And it actually, like, we didn't even plan to announce during Fashion Week, but it just got to a point where like I was going to fittings for like shows that I was like attending or working with the designer or DJing an event for. And I was like, I can't wear this, so I can't wear that. And then so, and it was just so obvious. Yeah. And it was such a relief to be like, I'm pregnant, instead of like trying to like make something work and then beating myself up about it because like I didn't fit into something, or I didn't look the way I wanted to, or like I had to come up with an excuse. And it's so much larger than like clothing. It's like, it's about like having to like put up a front, or like having to, you know, like hide certain things, or
It's so true.
What's it been like now, having a couple weeks under your belt of like living in the open?
Yeah. It's so nice. People must be so sick of me.
Oh my God, no.
Are people touching your belly already?
All the time. All the time.
How do you feel about that?
It's a mixed bag, because I know people mean really well. I think it depends on the person too, because there are people who I'd like never in any circumstance be physical with. You know, like we wouldn't even really hug. We're like not friends on that level. But people, but like they'll feel comfortable to like touch your stomach, and I'm like, oh, but we don't really have that type of relationship.
You're like, ew, please don't. It's just like the energy. Like, don't give. Ugh.
And it's a lot, and you have to think about like how many people are doing that to one person over a day.
Oh my God, I'm literally gonna sage my bump. I'm gonna be like,
no,
please.
seriously,
well,
there's a lot of energy
near it.
I also think it's like, it's that as well, because it's like most people mean well, and so I don't really, you know, like I just kind of let it slide. But obviously, like it just in general for like women, most of us don't want our stomachs touched.
No,
PSA. Baby or no baby. You know what I mean? Like it's just not the area. Like it's just like an odd place to be touched. But also then like, I think especially with my story in particular, and of like sharing and being really candid, like everyone around me is extremely excited and happy for me. So that's what I remind myself. Because like every email I get, every text I like get, every friend I see there, even like just, you know, like random like PR people or like brands will be like, oh my God, congrats. Like I can tell that it's very genuine. So of course I'm like, who am I to be like.
Yeah. On the topic of what you just said of like sharing, because you obviously share so much online and you've been so open about all 3 of these pregnancies, and obviously you kept your engagement a secret. The wedding was a surprise, but like you still end up sharing these things. Was that a sort of conscious effort on your part to be like, I'm going to share this in order to like help someone not feel alone? Or was it more from a place of like what you were just talking about of like no longer hiding, being like, I need to do this for myself, to like sort of release it? Once you say it, it's out there and it's like, it's not your burden anymore, especially like with the miscarriages. Was that like something, sort of walk through that experience of like deciding to share the way you did?
That's a great question, Gabby.
Thanks.
It's a cathartic for me to share. I also am not ashamed by any of the experiences that have happened to me. And I know that it's not my fault, even though as women, we are likely to blame ourselves because, you know, you want an answer, right? Like as a pragmatic person, you're like, I need a solution. And so to come to a solution, I need to know what went wrong. But these things happen. Like it's incredibly common for women to miscarry. And so I found that it wasn't, I mean, people do talk about it openly. Like I don't think I'm the first. But I do feel like it's less common to share the first 12 weeks with people. And I did notice when I did share it, a lot of people came to me privately and were like, it happened to me as well. Or like even like family members or close friends who I would assume I would know that about. But I just guess it's there's so much shame attached to it that a lot of people don't feel comfortable sharing that, and it's okay. But it was nice to share it because I felt supported by my community, and it just felt more of a burden to hide. Like sometimes it's like I don't need to adjust my comfort level so someone else can feel comfortable. And that was a really big part of why I was like, I don't care if this makes you feel uncomfortable. Like I'm going through this and this is my life right now. So I can't do this job, or I can't come to this event, or maybe I'm not being as present of a friend as you want me to be because I'm going through a lot. And it was easier for me to share than it's like the alternative would be like, just retreating and ghosting and like I needed people around me to get through what I was going through. So yeah,
that's such a beautiful clarification or like explanation of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring up such a good point too about the shame that we feel as women around so many things. And what you were saying earlier, like resonated so much of like trying to find an explanation. And I know that so many of our listeners can probably relate. And because I feel like I've experienced this 101 times and it sounds like we've all kind of gone through it, where like, I feel the need often to like give some like caveat something. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like you're almost calling yourself out before somebody else does. Where you're like, once they call you out, you're like, yeah, but I said it first. It's like when you make fun of something about yourself because you know that somebody else is going to make fun of you for it, or you think someone, it's like an insecurity thing too. And I feel like as women, we're just so fucking conditioned to do that, of like just accepting responsibility and taking all this blame and like kind of being like, you can't hurt me as much as I can hurt myself. So haha.
And internalizing it.
There's a lot of shame wrapped into that.
We're programmed to be that way by society, especially like even just people. I think they mean it with good intentions when they say like, don't share the first trimester. But like at the end of the day, I'm going to acknowledge the pregnancy whether it's full term or not. So like, even if you think about that, like most people like doctors, don't, share the first 12 weeks, or most people don't share until like XYZ. It's like, we're already programmed to like blame ourselves in case, in case things don't work out. So I think we just need to reframe what that's like, because if this is something so many women are going through, then like, why are we adjusting? Like I said, like our comfort levels so other people don't have to deal with that. It's messy. Like life's messy. That's okay.
It also feels so true to the core of why you even like had a dating show, or even like talking about sex and all these things that people don't represent, especially as like a South Asian woman. Like it kind of goes along that whole narrative with what your work has been in terms of like representing your true identity, if you will.
Yeah.
Is that would that feel like the right way to say it? I'm not trying to project how I'm interpreting what you're doing, but is that how you feel?
Let me put that in my one sheet. I come from like a really supportive but South Asian traditional family where we like didn't have the birds and the bees talk, and we don't air dirty like laundry, family issues. We don't like talk about these things openly, and so I of course, like, it's like a little kid when you're like, don't touch the stove, and you're like, well, now I really want to touch the stove. I have to touch the stove. I'm gonna put my whole face in the stove. And like once I started talking about it, I just couldn't stop, and it just snowballed. And I think that now, because we've democratized media with social media, everyone like has access to that, and it's really great because we don't really have to go through these things alone. So it's really nice.
How have you adjusted your boundaries doing that? Because I've heard you before speak to getting trauma dumped in the DMs when you started your show.
It's literally Meadow, by the way.
That's quite literally my entire experience, except for our listeners are so wonderful about it. Ever since I've spoken to it, I've even had people message me and apologize and talk to like our listeners are very cool about it now, which I think is beautiful. Have you, especially through sharing your miscarriages, did more of that happen? Or are you kind of like finding different ways to share or hold boundaries in a way that you don't see it as much?
Yeah, that can be like a tricky thing to navigate. But what I think is helpful is, what you guys have is an avenue to discuss those things. So people know that like this is the outlet for that. and they have to wait for that. And with mine, it used to be the live, it's soon going to be podcast, and I do these Q&As where like people know I'll address those questions. So I don't necessarily feel like I have to respond to those things anymore, because it's like, you know that I make myself available in those conversations, but I'm not a 24-hour hotline, and
you're doing it for free, and like bring this perspective. Yeah, exactly.
And also, like, I'm not a trained medical professional. I don't have the answers to everything. That I can only lend my perspective. But also, I think a lot of the times people just want to be listened to.
Yeah.
They don't really even need you to give them advice.
Well, that's what therapy is.
Yeah, and 99.9% of the time, we do what we want anyway. So I don't think anything I'm really saying is changing the trajectory of their life. I think that I just give them the space to feel listened to.
But that's really still good so equally important. Yeah, it's so equally important, because one, that's all they're seeking. And two, it's like that thing where, well, okay, Libra season, I'm so fucking indecisive all the time. If someone makes the decision for me, I instantly feel in my body whether I wanted that decision or not.
You knew.
You know what I mean? So it's like when you immediately offer your perspective, someone else can almost have a clear indication, like, does that feel right for me too or no? So it does help them on the process too.
I also think it's like process of elimination.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, well, like, these are my options. And like, I know my husband's Libra. So
is he really?
Yeah.
What's
so
his
just
birthday?
It's on the 8th. That's really
Oh, I'm 18. Cute.
Oh my God, cute. Yeah. I love Libras in my life. And so even having like the two options presented for him, like, it makes his life easier, because he's like, I can still decide on my own, but like, now, you know, like, it's streamlined by process of elimination.
When's your due date? If your Pisces husband's a Libra, what's your baby?
But you guys are going to die, and nobody knows this yet. It's Pisces, girl. 3 days to my birthday.
Stop.
She's a Pisces girl.
Yeah, I know. Breaking news. I don't even feel like my family have even asked me that, which is kind of funny.
Are you so excited?
It was on our list. Like, literally.
Yeah, it was.
I'm so excited, and I'm like, of course, this bitch is stealing my thunder already.
Yeah.
I'm like, the hell? I can't have one day to myself. But no,
She's
I'm really excited. It's funny too, because a lot of people, you hear like everyone also has advice for you when you're pregnant.
Oh, I'm so sure.
Unsolicited, constant. That's what I hear.
Strangers on the street, like, because I think parenting is such a common experience that bonds us all. You know, like, it doesn't matter, like,
that's beautiful.
You know what like race, class, any, like, we're all bonded by that same experience. So I think it's like this commonality, so people like to share. Like, have you noticed if you ask like a really broad, a general vague question on Instagram stories or to friends, people will be more responsive if it's like, what do I order at the Cheesecake Shop versus like something really specific or like highbrow? Because it's like, because that way everybody gets to have an opinion. And like parenting is one of those things. Everybody has an opinion on parenting. So, you know, people are like, she's definitely coming early because, you know, new first babies come early, and then the other half are like, they definitely come late because first babies come late. So I'm like, which is it? Is she coming on my birthday or not? And I came a month early. Do you guys know if you were on time?
I was a week late. I'm also a Taurus, so like I was comfortable.
That adds up.
Yeah,
like, I was
comfortable.
She's just like, I was comfortable in here. I did not want to leave.
She decorated her whole apartment. Yeah. She had everything set up in there. She did not need to come out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she's like, I have a consistency in here and I'm chilling.
Yeah. Yeah, that was me. I was late. But my sister was a month early.
And wait,
a month early is a lot.
Is she older?
She's older. She's an Aquarius.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, they're actually early. But I know a lot of women who went like, you know, 3 weeks after their due date, and they were like, get this baby out of me.
Oh, my friend is currently pregnant. Hi, Danny, you're not listening, but she's pregnant and she's like about to pop. She's gonna have a little Libra baby. Thank God, because she was like, I have enough Virgos in my life. She was like, if this child is a Virgo, like, can't handle it.
No, she'll bounce them out.
Stay inside.
I feel like she has not. Every time I told her, I was like, every time I see your little icon, I'm like, she gave birth? it's going to be the announcement because I feel like this woman has been pregnant for 75 years. And she literally is posting on her story like yesterday, like with her bump, just being like, someone tell me what to do to get it out. Like, get it out of my body.
Get it out. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's what's so interesting is I think that's such a beautiful perspective. It's such a universal commonality. So everyone would have an opinion. But what's funny is people don't realize because it's so universal, you don't think if every single person in this world has this experience that there's going to be that level of nuance and it's going to be highly individualized. You know what I mean? Like, how do you blanket something that every single person has? What? Like
that's the other thing to what you're saying.
The math isn't mathing.
Even though there's like so many different perspectives, none of them are the same.
None.
And you're
like okay, why listen to anyone? Yeah.
No. And it can be overwhelming, I think, if you're someone who by Libra. No. It can be overwhelming if you can't be discerning. Because like I listen to a lot of it and then I'm like, okay, but at the end of the day, my partner and I are going to make the decisions and I appreciate the advice. I'm not someone who gets really easily swayed, but I know a lot of people who are easily affected or like really do believe everything that, you know, they hear or take that advice like extremely seriously. So it's tricky.
Also, it's like you're giving birth to a human that like that's like she's going to be her own human being. Like you can't expect
she's already coming out upstaging you.
Yeah,
I don't know what to expect.
Exactly. Like babies are never going to act like no two babies are going to be the same. It's like how can you and then it puts more pressure too. Now I'm just projecting of like my future pregnancies one day, like hopefully of like if my baby doesn't come, like if it doesn't respond in the way that some other parent told me to parent, and then it's not responding that way, it's like, then that's going to be on me of like, oh, I'm a bad mom because my kid isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. Pia Baroncini was just posting on her story yesterday. She posted her daughter Carmela and she had posted like, does anyone have any like, and she put in parentheses like helpful and kind, like something like that, tips on getting her to start walking. And like she's crawling a lot, blah, 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 blah. And then she posted the next day a story being like, the most helpful response were the moms that came at me being like, shut the fuck up. She's fine. Like, she's fine. Like she's going at her own pace. Yeah. She's fine. Yeah. My kid didn't walk until XYZ age and now they're a fucking track star. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You can't like, it's not something you can compare. But of course, like you can't help but do it because
of course.
It's a new experience and you like jump in head first. So you're like, I think a large part of comparing is like self-assurance. Like, am I doing it right? Mm-hmm. It's more about knowing that like you're not fucking up versus is the kid okay?
Right.
Because you're like, am I doing something wrong when they're not, you know, about 99% of the time, it's not you. So my therapist loves to say it's not you.
How long have you been in therapy?
I actually have not been seeing my therapist, I'd say in the last few months. Not for like any specific reason, just life has been busy. But I was seeing her, this particular one, for about 3-ish years, and I love her and she's amazing. And there are a lot of people in my life who see her. Not very close, like, you know, not like
I've recommended my old therapist to everyone. You don't have to clarify it. Yeah.
Well, she actually won't see like a partner or
sure.
Yeah, but so like, you know, people where there's enough distance.
Sure.
But I do find it. I don't really know how people don't have therapy. Because I just think it's the biggest gift ever.
It is. It truly is.
It's like the one place you can just, you know, it's a judgment-free, safe space. That person has no agenda. And I don't really know anywhere else you can get that. So,
and it's not fair to ask our partners or our friends to do that. Or someone that you saw on Instagram be vulnerable that you now feel like you have the right
to
the
champion.
Ask them to do it for you too.
Yeah, people will like write stuff and I'm like, you really should see a therapist. Only because I feel like this is way out of my depth. Like, I don't even know if a licensed professional would feel, you know, like fully equipped to answer certain things. Like, sometimes I'm sure you must get that as well, where you're like,
Oh, we sure do.
Yeah.
We sure do. Particularly Meadow, because obviously Meadow comes from like that professional background and everyone's aware that like I'm the peer. But so it happens more in Meadow's DMs, but it happens on our DMs too. Circling back really quick, I resonated a lot with what you said of don't touch the stove when it came to certain taboo topics within your culture. Because that's all I do in my writing is like, if it made anybody in the Latin community somewhat uncomfortable and like I couldn't talk about it at the dinner table, it's like all I want to write about. So I'm wondering if you ever had a conversation with your family, like when you started talking about certain things publicly and how they reacted, and advice for people who kind of want to break
That's a good question.
that wall.
People ask me that often. Not exactly in that way, but they'll say like different iterations of that. Like how did you bring your interracial relationship up to your traditional family, or how did you pivot into a creative industry to your family, or it's always about like how do I present this to my family. And I don't know if this is the best advice, but I've always just done it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like, surprise.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the proof is in the pudding too. Sometimes you just have to do shit and be like, look, it worked. So stop talking.
You're like, it's called autonomy.
Yeah.
I'm doing what I want.
I guess to give a little bit more insight into that is at the end of the day, our family is just not the best for us. So if I think about it from that, if I position whatever I'm trying to like present to them and from that point of view, like, I just want you to know this, but also I've handled this, or I'm secure in this, or I'm self-sufficient. Like, for example, obviously in the beginning, my mom was not like, yay, yes, drop out of uni and go be a DJ in a country where we have no relatives and you don't have a visa. But now, like, you know, which was so funny because, like, I always had to do the, like, bait and switch with her. So I, like, got into, that's my strategy in the beginning, was I, like, got into, well, you call it college and we call it uni.
Right.
Into, like, economics at uni, and I left school and I was like, obviously I'm never going to do this. And so I dropped out and was like bartending, and my mom thought I was still going to this school because it was like a really good school. And I kept auditioning for this other music college that I really wanted to get to, and I finally got into it. I was like, so I sat down and I'm like, I dropped out of school, but I'm in this other, like, I bait and switched.
I'm transferring.
But I waited obviously till I had, you know, the thing.
Smart woman.
And same with, like, when I introduced my family to partners, but John's kind of really the only, like, serious relationship he's the only person I've ever brought home. I was like, this is the person I'm going to, like, marry and have a baby with, and, like, this is the love of my, like, I did it in a way where it was like, they were like, okay, she's not just,
it's not just another one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, this is,
it's not like you had brought home lots of boyfriends. You were like, no, he's the one.
Yeah. So they were like, okay, well, we're just happy you found something. But I think always positioning it from, like, knowing they wanted the best for me, or my, you know, and trying to consider that in certain things.
Okay. Speaking of John, you met on Raya, correct?
Yeah.
Dating app tips, because people see, I feel like when I said the words, I have a boyfriend, like a piece of me died.
How did you guys meet?
We met on Hinge.
See, I think Hinge is an amazing app.
So I was on Raya and on Hinge. Before him, like, the people know. So, like, why I said I feel like a piece of me died when I said I have a boyfriend is because, like, it's been the bit. Is like I'm the resident single.
Yeah, I know.
Resident grandma and resident single.
Yeah, we talked about the roster. Exactly. Yeah. We talked about the roster a lot. The roster was comprised of Raya men, which just didn't work.
Which is, like, was just tough. Great entertainment, but not real life. Yeah.
And then we found a Hinge boy. I was his first and only Hinge date. Like, he had just downloaded the app out of, like, pressure from a friend.
Yeah.
And I never really would swipe on people. And then I saw him and I was like, you're too good looking. So I was like, I have to talk to you. And then that's what happened. And then we went on our first date and he had, like, a bunch of other dates lined up. And after our first date, canceled all of his other dates. And I was like, but people always ask me for, like, my dating app tips. And I was wondering if you had any for the public.
Well, first, I want to say congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And second, I think that it's exciting because now you get to be the single person who has a boyfriend. And that's a cool perspective to have too.
Thanks. You know? Thanks for making me feel better.
Because there's a lot of people like you who are, like, you know, used to that was me. Like before I met John, I was like the big mess who would like go on Instagram Live and tell everyone about their bad internet days.
Yeah.
And then, you know, things shift, and then you're still a mess, by the way. You be the mess forever.
Great.
You're just a mess in a relationship. So don't worry.
No, literally.
Guys, the entertainment is not going to end. Don't you fret.
Exactly. The chaos just manifests in other ways.
Great.
But it's people, when I posted that screenshot, everyone was like, what app is this? And I was like, disclaimer, I do not recommend this app, because I have been on this app since it was in beta, because I'm old, and it's taken me like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years, however long the app's been around, to actually meet the person. So I don't know if this is the route you want to go. And even though we met on Raya, I think eventually we crossed paths many times in real life, because we had same sexual friends, same this, same
That's
that.
the positive of Raya, though, is you have mutuals with everyone.
It let us know each other's intentions.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think our paths would have crossed regardless. But I think Hinge is more of a genuine place to meet people, because I think Raya is like very egocentric, because people think they're somebody, and like 99.9% of these people are nobodies, and the actual somebodies don't think like that at all. So first, being on the right app for you, whatever it is that you're looking for. If you're, you know, looking for a connection that can lead to work, or be in the same industry, or have some superficial fun, maybe you should be on Raya. And if you're looking for a more genuine connection, then I would encourage you to explore other apps. Or if you're just looking to have a good time, there's like Field, there's this, there's that. There's basically an app that's catered to every single requirement you would have. If you're extremely religious, if you only want to date a person of the same faith, finding like the right place to even look is really important, because to meet somebody, you need to know what you want and need.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
And then you can be like, okay, based on these wants and needs, where realistically am I going to meet this person? Is it at the dog park? Is it on Hinge? Is it volunteering at a community center? Is it blind dating? Like, based off what, because the thing is, like, dating advice is subjective, like depending on like what you're looking for, you know. And it's like, I have friends who are like, I need to meet someone who's Muslim or Jewish or this or that, and I'm like, well, okay, go volunteer at your temple.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like,
literally,
you know, or go like it. Or I have friends who are like, my dog is my life. I only care about my dog. My dog sleeps in the bed. I kiss make out my dog on the lips, which, by the way, I do all these things. I'm like, well, maybe you need to meet your person at her.
Like, I do that.
I'm like, well, you need to meet your person at the dog park. Like, what are you looking for? You know,
it's such a good point that I don't think people think about, is like they just expect. And I mean, I was super guilty of this, where I'd be like, why am I not finding this like man who comes from like a similar culture, like cultural background? Like, why am I not finding someone who like doesn't like, who actually speaks Spanish? And then I'm like, oh, because I'm hanging out at Tenants, like on the week. Like that's why. Like, it's because
I think
not
people
there.
are scared to be that honest with themselves too, though. Like, people are scared to be like, this is actually what I want, and I can like say no to things that look halfway close, because like, if I don't think anyone else will be there, or check all the, like, I think people are a little scared to have that honest conversation with themselves. But then when they do, and then seek it out strategically, whether you want a partner or not, like you're saying, like, there's avenues to find it. Yeah. There's no judgment on what you want. It's just being clear.
Yeah.
I like that idea of being honest with yourself, because a lot of the times we have an idea of what we're looking for. And as people, we change all the time. So then what we're looking for in partners change all the time. But I think a lot of us get caught up with what we think we need. And like, a lot of those things aren't their wants, not needs, you know? It's like, I have a friend, Steph. Hi, Steph, if you're listening. We made vision boards at the beginning of COVID of like partner. Like, we were just like being dumb.
Cute.
And like, when I look at that vision board, I'm like, I did not need any of these. Like, they were just like stupid things, you know? They were like superficial, like dumb. But at the time, I really was like, these are the things that I need for my person. But I'm like,
we have so many thoughts on vision boards. Because two things. One, I want to hear Meadow's thoughts on a vision board. And second, I have a story about like me manifesting a man. Go ahead, Meadow.
Okay.
Well, and also everything Amrit just said about like none of this matters was literally me looking at Gabby's requirements and being like, That's cute. You think that that's how this is going to turn out, babe. You know what I mean?
Like, firstly, this is not a real person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like the things that you think matter, like the things that you put on the vision board that you think matter literally have nothing to do with the type of person you're like. It's just not how it works. Anyway, I think mood boards are completely spiritual bypassing. And I think that if you make, I like, here's the thing. I am a visual girl. And I'm a Libra. I'm driven by aesthetics. I'm a visual learner. Like I get it. I love it. But if you're going to slap something on a vision board and look at it every day and then not have the honest conversation about exactly what you're looking for, where you're at and what you need to do in order to get it, what your triggers are, like what's coming up, none of that is ever going to align. You know what I mean? It's like the 2-part game. It's a 2-part game. But I also have more questions about John, but Gabby, you have more to say on this first.
Well,
wait, I need to know what was on the vision board.
Well, no. So, okay, we talk about our psychic.
I was like, I'll give a very explicit example.
No, you can't. We just can't talk about it. Like we have such specific examples that like we will discuss offline. We'll tell you offline. But on mine, Meadow and I have both seen this like intuitive psychic Anna Maria. We talk about her all the time. We love her. And I was sort of going through like a moment this summer where at the beginning of the summer, I was like, I need more. Like the roster was in full effect and I was so miserable. Like I was just like, this feels really empty. Like it's just, I need more. And I was kind of going through like a very
It was fun till it wasn't.
Yeah, it was fun till it wasn't.
You were having fun.
I was having a great time. And then it was fun till it wasn't. And
Meadow was having fun.
All I got was stories. It was amazing. Yeah.
All the friends just got all the stories. Yeah. But basically, Anna Maria suggested I was going through like a moment of unexpected healing. And she was like, you need to be really honest and really intentional because you're a powerful manifestor. So you need to be super intentional about what it is that you're actually looking for. And she was like, and you need to get granular. Like you need to write a list of all of the qualities that you want in a partner and be superficial. Like, because I think that's also that a fear and like a thing that we're not honest with ourselves about is like the superficial aspect of it, of like physical qualities or like certain personality traits or whatever the fuck that we think are like, again, quote unquote, like superficial, but like at the end of the day, it still is part of the person that you're like spending time with.
Or you figure out what's grounded in like a deeper
You figure out things about yourself.
Yeah.
It opens up wounds about yourself, or it's like, where I really want this in a partner. Why am I not fulfilling that for myself? Or like, what made me place so much importance on this? So it's a fun exercise in that because you learn a lot about yourself. But also, like, if anyone's planning on doing this, like, I really think that the only reason it worked is because I was so brutally honest about, like, I was in a place where I was able to be very, very honest with myself. And I wrote out this list. This was in like end of June. Literally like weeks later is when I met my now boyfriend. And when I tell you, like, I shit you not, like I found the list the other day, whole thing is him.
Yeah. Wow.
And like whole thing is him. And then even still, like he's presented qualities that aren't on that list because I didn't know that people like that existed.
Exactly.
Aww.
I know. It's really gross how like mushy and sweet I've gotten on the podcast.
No, we love it.
Yeah.
We love it.
But it really works. It really works about if you're being intentional. And I say this to friends or people that like message me and they're like, well, like I want a boyfriend, but like, yeah, I'm also fine hooking up with someone. And I'm like, no, which one is it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we can have fun, but it's like, do you really want both? Like clearly not. And then you're attracting whatever.
You can also have enough time and energy and space in your life for what you're capable of. And new opportunities can't come when you're entertaining the in-betweeners.
Oh, yeah, by the way, the roster was being snipped one by one, like before I met him. Like I was tying up all these loose ends so that when he came into my life, it was like, okay, great.
I liked what you're saying about how this healer was like, it's not superficial. And actually, none of these things are, because there's a reason why we want them that are deeper. Like, for example, in my old vision board, I used to be like, I need someone who works in music industry, which sounds superficial, but what I really was saying was I need someone who understands, who speaks my language and understands how work fits into my life, so I don't need to explain that to them. But do they need to be in the same industry as me? No. Like that was
I just need that understanding.
I need the understanding.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Or it's like, I would say certain things, but really they meant another. And the other thing I would say in therapy was, I just feel really needy. And my therapist would be like, there's no such thing as being needy. Being needy means you're in need of something. So what is it?
You're just asking to be loved in a specific way.
Yeah. It's like, what is it that you're looking for that's unfulfilled? That's all being needy is. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it has like a negative connotation. So like we're making these lists and like when someone's like, that's superficial or like that, you know, that's not a need. You're like, it is a need for a certain reason. Like while like the reasons may be superficial, there is something deeper that like I need from that.
That's a really good reframe.
Yeah.
Meadow.
Our synergy today, babe.
It's a good reframe. Very good.
Because I also had the same thing where when I wrote my list, I was like, but why are these things so important to me? You know? And then I'm like, it's not because I need a guy who's well dressed. It's because I want someone who is not going to make me feel like I'm superficial for loving the things I do. But so I just want the understanding more than them needing to be well dressed, which is a superficial quality, right? But like, if my partner loved me and wore the same 3 outfits every day and was a farmer and was not fashionable in any way. I'm just speaking hypothetical, but he loved that I loved to get dressed.
Exactly.
That's more important than like, you know what I mean? It's like,
if he can emotionally bid to you to be like, meet you with the excitement of you putting together something that feels good, whether he or not, he participates that and not.
It's irrelevant.
Exactly.
And it's like, and I think a lot of those times those lists are like, why do we need those things? Like what exactly needs to be validated here?
But that deeper work is where like when you start getting that level of honesty or developing that level of honesty with yourself and looking at the needs at the same time, that's the moneymaker. You got to have both.
For sure.
Okay, let's talk about John. Because first of all, you said you didn't believe in love at first sight till you met him, and that was my exact same experience. And then also interracial couple questions, specifically in terms of parenting, because we all know I'm trying to be pregnant right now. I want to know, as someone that's South Asian, but then born in Singapore, raised in Australia, the whole 9, do you have already in your head
specific... Okay, Miss Research.
Oh, I did research. Do you have like specific... I don't know, like cultural qualities or like fun quirks or traditions that you know for sure that you want to raise your kid with? And are they different from John? Like, have you gone down that kind of rabbit hole yet?
It's funny because I think the one that comes up more than race is like American versus Australian. Like I'm like these are like American qualities I do not want my kids to have. You know what I mean? And there's
tell me all of them. I'm interested.
I think there's a lot of things we can both like learn from one another. And I can be like, as a Pisces, I can be really like it's not all or nothing. It's like, I'm very like, it's either this or it's either that. Like
black or white?
It's like black or white. It's like, sometimes I struggle to be in between. And so I think the one thing that like I really love about John is like he makes me live in the in-between a little bit more. Because sometimes I'll like say outrageous things like, I'm like, I do not want to raise my kid in America. It's a total shithole. And then I'm like, I'm like, rewind, but you're like having a baby in America and you live here.
Right. So like, what am I going to do?
I'm like, what is it you're actually like opposed to here, or like what are you actually scared of? And I'm like, you know, is it like racism? Is it elitism? Is it so many things? It's like, I think it helps us kind of look a little bit more about like what kind of parents we want to be, what kind of relationship we want to have. But I had also really never dated a white guy seriously before.
Same with Aaron, had never dated a white girl seriously before either. Yeah.
Interesting. And not that
we're the Libras made it through, just saying.
I know. and I also always like get nervous saying that because it's like not like I was
not that you're actively avoiding
for that. Yeah. It was the way that things happened. So there are certain
Wait, where is he from? Sorry.
He's from Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Okay.
Yeah. So like, again, like huge cultural differences for him and for me, you know, and we get to like teach each other things all the time, which is really cool. But sometimes I'm like, oh, like I get in my head, I'm like, fuck America. Like I get into this like way of thinking that I don't think is helpful to anything. I'm like, oh, like this white person said this and da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, but you're going to have an interracial baby. So you can't think like this. Like that's a very superficial, unhelpful way of thinking. Like, I'm like, what are the things that you like? What are the things that are really bothering you? You know, like what's important to you to teach your child, or what are the things you need to be like, this is important to me, so I need to make sure they're raised in this type of environment, that type of environment versus, you know.
But you're already doing that though, because as we like to say, I read this on Tumblr years ago and I always repeat it. Your first thought is your conditioning. Your second thought is what matters. So whether or not that's your first thought, and then your follow-up is like, okay, well, my baby's going to be somewhat white. So let me think of how to reframe. You know what I mean? Okay. So what are the Aussies doing right though? What are you going to implement? What do the Aussies get right that we get wrong?
I like the balance of work life there. But I also think that, oh my God. Babes.
I've never been. I don't know Australian culture well, so
it's
illuminate me.
9 to 5 o'clock, everyone's out the door. I mean, also, like, see, I can say this, and that's my experience, but, like, my sister works at, like, you know, at one of the top, like, accounting, you know, she's at Deloitte, so she'd be like, that's not true.
Right.
But
take it with a grain.
It's a laid-back culture there. People prioritize wellness and family and health and outdoor living and a lot of different things, but in saying that, like, so does John, because he's from Minnesota. Like, you know, so I think it's like about not being, the word I was looking for is absolute. It's like,
absolute.
I always think in absolutes, because like, I'm like, oh God, if it's not this, it's going to be this. And I'm like, actually, there's an in-between somewhere that everybody can meet in the middle, you know? And like, a lot of it's like also understanding why that's important to someone. Because, like, for example, not with, like, John, but, like, my mom, like, found Christianity late in life. Like, we weren't raised Christian. Like, my family was never religious in that way. But my mom, in her, like, older age, has, like, started going to church, like, a church, and, like, found a group, like, a like, Sunday type
support, Sunday support.
A support group, And I think it helps her because, like, my sister and I moved out of home.
Off.
And so exactly. And I love that for her because it gives her the community she needs. But a really big thing for her was like, are you going to cushion the baby? And I'm like, no, because that's not something either of us want to do. And she's like, okay, so the baby's going to be born into sin. And I'm like, it's not that absolute. Like, like, you know, and then, but then the other part of me, the pragmatic part of me is like, okay, why is that so important to her? Like, is she feeling far away, and she feels like the comfort of religion will, you know, like help shape
protect her if she's not there in person.
It's like, I think understanding reasoning behind certain things is extremely helpful, because like it's so much more than, you know, like I want this, I want that, compromise.
That seems to be your superpower, because you have said that from touching stomachs to, you know, making sense of everything, like looking at people's intentions and separating your ego from reacting to it because you know they have the best intention, just letting it go. You seem to be very good at that.
Well, I definitely have my moments where I'm not the bigger person, or like I'm reactive, of course, because I'm human, but it's something that I work on every day. So I would hope that.
Was it innate to you when you were little, or do you think that that's like growing up, that's been a big thing that you've actively worked on?
Growing up. I was such a hothead.
Really?
And I still like kind of can be. Like my sister is the like pragmatic, like she's a Libra too. My sister is like,
you really are surrounded by Libras. Wow.
Yeah. She's like the peacemaker, and I'm like I'm going to do whatever I want, move out
Hellraiser.
17, like Hellraiser. And so, but now I think, you know, there's value to like kindness and like being empathetic and like doing so, because you can always do everything you want. It's the way you go about it.
Exactly.
Beautifully said.
You know, like you can still instill all the values you want in an interracial baby that you would have in any other situation. It's like, it's about how you go about something.
did you get this from ayahuasca? It's been an hour and I wanted to ask you about your ayahuasca. I never asked you. I am dying to talk to you about this because people have been asking us about it too. I'm a big mushroom girly. So tell me all about your experiences.
I did it a really long time ago. I did it twice.
Only once? Oh, twice. Oh, wow.
Twice. Wow. And the second time,
not like back to back.
No, but people do like 2 days in a row. But I didn't need to have. I personally didn't need to do that because both times were so powerful for me that.
Cool.
But in a way where like,
everything.
The second time I felt so overwhelmed with like repressed memory coming back to me that I was like, I don't know if I need to do this again right now. Okay. And that was like 7 or 8 years ago because it's tricky. Like we go to therapy, we talk about an experience, and then a lot of the times we like develop this toolkit to deal with how to cope and how to move forward and how to like use these tools in real life when they happen again. But in ayahuasca, when everything's just like coming out, like you don't have a coping mechanism. So what I found was like, hi, honey.
Hi, honey. Libra King.
Yeah. Oh, you can't hear, but there's a Libra hive on the podcast. Libra King. I'll connect you guys after. What I found is actually like it wasn't that helpful for me personally because like I didn't really know what to do with all these experiences that were like coming back to me.
Okay.
And so then instead of like it being a productive experience, I just like didn't get out of bed for a week because I was like,
that was the second time.
The second time. Oh, the first time was like not as intense. And the second time I was like, oh my God, I can do this like an extreme strong version dose of this. And then so much stuff came out that I was like, I don't really even know how to process any of this information, but I don't want to sweep it all under the rug because that undoes everything that it's counterproductive to the experience that I'm looking for, but I don't know how to cope with these things. So I think that doing it, the environment you do it in is really important. Having a practitioner who, it's the same with like all the experimental therapies. I think ketamine therapy. Yeah. Like there, EMDR. It's like it's really important or helpful to have someone who can facilitate it afterwards. So like the experience is one thing. And the other thing is like, what type of experience are you looking to have? Because like, I know people who go like every few weeks and I'm like, okay, so you're just enjoying the feeling versus using it as a healing experience because you can't really be doing that much unpacking and like therapeutic work every few weeks like that
you're not experiencing an ego death if you're just taking this to party, you know
exactly
what I'm saying?
Exactly. And it's physically impossible to experience that ego death like once a week. So I think,
did you take the lessons later into therapy? Like did it at least help kind of like lead can I speak?
A blueprint.
Thank you very much. A blueprint for that?
It did because it made me realize how much of our memories or our brains we have access to but don't use. So I think it was helpful for that. I don't know personally for me, but I need to remember every single thing. That's just
so fair. And I don't think people talk about that.
Yeah. And I know that's like the cop-out version of what this experience is supposed to be. But I think that in the same way, I don't think everything needs to be okay and everything doesn't need to be forgiven and everything doesn't need, like, I don't need everything to be resolved. And that's just me. So I can actually walk away from something and be like, that's what happened. I'm not blind to the reality of it. I can acknowledge it. I just don't need to work through it. I don't need to work through every single thing. So yeah.
I think that's such a beautiful perspective to have and like low key a hot take when it doesn't necessarily need to be. I think Gabby, just this past week we were in the car and I was explaining to you how recently I've been getting good at like, okay, a wave of anxiety or some strong feeling comes up and I will watch how quickly my mind will make up narratives to support while I feel that way or come up with ideas or like put a story to why I should feel this way more or what I'm missing out. And I've literally been catching myself in real time be like, your mind does not need to figure out what experience you're feeling. And in fact, you're probably wrong. Maybe there's generational shit.
Yeah.
Maybe there's collective shit. Maybe there's something going on that you don't need to know about. And so you're not going to fix it or solve it by going into your mind. You're going to fix it by moving through the feeling, accepting the feeling, and moving on. Like every time we feel the need to rationalize and over intellectualize our healing, like you do yourself a disservice at a certain extent. So it is kind of a beautiful balance to have.
Because maybe the feeling's enough. And that was the experience in itself. But
what was the first one though?
Gabby probably can't do that because she's a Taurus.
I have such control issues. How'd you know?
Because I have a lot of Taurus in my life as well. Taurus and Libra.
I am so scared of like drugs. Like the most where it's like psychedelic, whatever the fuck, is like mushrooms. And like mushrooms and I have a nice relationship, but like I'm still not
like, give me all the drugs.
But I'm still not taking enough that like I'm hallucinating. Like maybe the mountain is like doing a little wiggle and a wave, but like it's not. Do you know what I mean?
People forget it's really about it really like your. I mean, I don't want to be like your star sign, but it really impacts you in a specific way based on how your mind functions. Like,
and like I'm a very controlling human, and like even when I'm like wasted, I'm like the most put together human in the room. Like I will take myself to bed, I will take off my makeup, I'll throw up in private and wake up with a clean face and a star face on. Like always.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
She's doing her like 12-step beauty routine in the back of like a kidnapping van. She's like,
literally. I'm like, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm like, I'm so sorry. You can do whatever you need to do, but like I need face wash. Can we make that happen?
My friend Orange, who's a Virgo, like we used to
Orange.
What a name.
That's such a good name.
I know, her name is Orange. It's amazing. We would take mushrooms, we would take the same amount, and I'd be like rolling around the floor like watching Shrek, and she'd be like cleaning the refrigerator. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, come look at this. And like it would just be so like but the amount of joy that I was getting out of like rolling around the floor was the same amount of joy she was getting out of cleaning the refrigerator. Yeah. So literally. It's like it's about like, you know, your personal experience. And
and I have I have 3 Capricorn placements also in my chart.
Scary.
So like I love a control. I also really am paranoid and like genuinely feel like I'm going to be the person that like does a line of coke and like dies on the spot. Like that's my narrative.
But maybe that's not your drug of choice.
Well, also powders now in general we should be staying away from. So I concur.
Right.
Yeah. Right. But that in like going full circle back, Meadow, to you asking about the first experience, it's like that's why I think these things are important to acknowledge, because like not everyone is going to have that ayahuasca experience, like that out of body hallucination.
Please describe it for me. Please tell me how it was for you.
I mean, the first time I had the cliched experience, which was like I was in a teepee in a farm, and like things are coming
in America,
out of, like,
or did you travel?
No, I did it in Australia.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was so long ago, and I was like seeing things come out of like the wooden like beams, and like I was feeling joy and like crying and this and that, and like experiencing a million things at once, and things were kind of coming to a head, but they weren't fully like releasing. Which is why I think a lot of the times they recommend you do it like 3 days in a row, or, you know, because for example,
did you throw up
when you do it? No, I was just about to say I didn't purge, but I did the diet properly.
Oh, okay. Like that probably made a big difference.
I did the cleanse. Yeah.
And she's like, today is not the day that I'm going to shit my pants. I'm going to do it.
I know. And it was crazy because we were like in the woods essentially, and people, and like, I had friends who were like literally shitting themselves and like vomiting on themselves, and I was like lying there like
you dumb bitch, I'm clean.
And I was like, you losers. You know, I'm like, you fucking losers didn't do the diet, and now you're shitting yourself, and I'm like,
you're perfectly
having a magical experience. Well, I took it really seriously, mostly because I was terrified of that, because I had read and like I found that was a really common experience. So I was like, last thing I'm going to do is like literally crap my pants in front of a room full of strangers.
No, that's my biggest reason why I won't do it. Exactly. Throwing up is my biggest fear in general. So like,
but you won't if you really, because the idea of why that happens is like essentially like ayahuasca is a heart healing, and it wants to get into the center of your core. And so before you can even get to that, if you're still at the physical, it'll remove the physical layers like an onion before it can get to the core. But if you do it properly, you're not going to have that experience.
I'm going to go in being like, get there, get in there. Like,
if you follow, there's like a diet they recommend to do. And like, if you do
isn't it like no sex, no caffeine? It's like, it's a lot.
It's like essentially a fast from every type of pleasure you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really nice, actually, I like and recommend doing it in groups where you don't necessarily have a lot of. I'd go with a friend or two, but I don't think you should do it with like a circle of friends
because I've heard similar sentiments.
Yeah. Both times when I did it, there was like a sharing circle in the morning where you shared your thoughts and experiences, and it's actually really nice to do that with strangers.
Yeah.
Because then you can be like unloading all these crazy experiences that came back to you and be like, I'm never going to see these people again. And I feel like you're less likely to do that if there's consequences.
Totally. I agree.
Totally.
I agree.
Yeah. And they do suggest that. Like, they don't recommend partners do it together. They don't recommend you go with like a really close friend if you're having an issue, or like you're supposed to have a solo experience. But I think like, people obviously do go together because they want, it is also.
Or at least do it alone first and then maybe go with a partner or a friend or something after.
Yeah. It's not like a social, like, let's all like get together and take ayahuasca. No. But people do it. And I'm like, okay, that just defeats the purpose of the whole experience.
Right. So. Do you think you'll do it again as a mom later down the road?
Well, it's crazy. I've had like the longing to do it recently, but now I'm like, I obviously can't do it because I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
But I for sure wouldn't rule it out.
Cool.
Oh my God, you're going to be such a cool mom.
Oh my God.
John hasn't done it, so I think it'd be cool. Oh. But also he should have his own, like, I wouldn't really go with him. And he should have his own experience. But I definitely think it'd be a cool thing for both of us to do at separate times.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. And like get out the whole new wave of trauma that parenting is going to thrust upon you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Kind of like I saw you guys did an episode on the Hoffman experience. It's like they tell you not to do that with.
Yeah. Have you done Hoffman?
No, I have wanted to do either Hoffman or Esalen for a really long time, but I've never done Hoffman purely based on the fact that the waiting list is like insane.
Well, I don't know what's going on. I thought that when I did Hoffman, I was 22 and I had just graduated from college, and like the only reason I knew what Hoffman was because like my parents had gone. And like
that's so cool.
Both of my parents had gone and like some family friends had gone. So I thought Hoffman was this like weird place. And then I went. Everyone thought I was in an insane asylum. Like that was the narrative. Changed my life, best thing I ever did. But then I like moved to LA. Like even when I was in New York, like no one really knew.
Everyone's like,
I moved to LA.
Everyone now it's cool.
Yeah.
It's like a cool thing. Like I literally went to get a haircut the week that I moved here, and I met Glenn, Mr. Glenn Ellis, who we love.
We love you.
And Glenn is like telling me, I don't know if he wants to share this. No, he talks about it. But he was about to go to Hoffman and like happened to bring it up. And I was like, shut the fuck up. Like I didn't know other people went there. Like, oh my God. And now it's like such a fucking thing.
Yeah. I think also because they've started doing media.
Exactly.
Like they published. I feel like it was a very private thing before.
Also, Justin Bieber talked about it in like a Vogue interview.
Just gonna say that.
Oh my God.
He walked out. He left.
Really?
He said he like stayed like a day and like dipped. But like he's talked about it, and like Katy Perry has talked about it.
Multiple celebrities have been like.
Yeah, that's when it happens. Yeah. The other place that's supposed to be really beautiful is Esalen.
My very first mental health job ever was trained by someone whose mom ran all the groups there for like 45 years.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a friend, Miriam, who like goes back all the time.
Yeah.
And she said you don't really even, obviously she recommends doing a course on the first visit.
Right.
But like I guess the space is like.
It's less structured, right?
Yeah, it's less structured and you can kind of like make your own schedule. And that like the place is like such a sacred like birthing ground of like intention and fertility. Like there's like so much going on there, like magic, that they recommend even just like going and staying and not even doing it. Like you could just go and use the hot springs and like you don't even have to sign up for stuff.
Right.
So
choose your own adventure
yeah.
stuff.
But I think for the first time I would, because
Yeah.
like I'd want like some understanding of the facility, and then afterwards you can
Right.
But like how cool if you do Hoffman separately and then you guys go as a couple. Like whoever I end up marrying, like they will go to Hoffman purely so we can do like the couples weekend. And I remember like the teachers talking about it because like obviously it's such an intense experience and like we're just sitting there sobbing for a week. And then like they were saying that it's so fun when like the couples come because like all you hear at night is people just like fucking all night. And I'm like,
my God,
I want to go.
Of course.
There you go. So
oh my God,
now
that's where
boyfriend
Gabby's
has
going to
go.
get pregnant. Hoffman.
Full circle.
A fertile place. Of, like a lot of exchanging of ideas. And
oh my God. Meadow, any last minute rapid fires or do we?
Yeah. Can we do a quick pregnant rapid fire to wrap it up?
Yeah.
Okay. First question, Miss DJ. Hey, Mrs. DJ, what's on your push playlist?
Oh my God. You know, I haven't thought about it at
Okay.
all.
I mean, you're early. So I was, it's stretched to ask.
It's because I've totally put off any learnings of labor.
Yeah.
Like people keep being like, what kind of a birth do you want to have? Are you going to like, natural or Medicare? I'm like, honestly, I think I'm just in the denial phase of things.
Fair.
But also anyone that plans, it goes the opposite. Like planning what your birth, I don't know.
Like some people are like my sister-in-law was like, I had a really quick labor. It was 30 minutes. I'm like, no, I really don't think mine's going to be like that. But it's good to be hopeful.
Right.
Maybe I won't even need one. Who knows? Maybe I'll just go in there and babe will come out and Sugarfish will be waiting for me.
Oh,
ideal.
I hope so. Okay, so what's the weirdest symptom you've had?
Ooh, I haven't had a weird symptom yet, but I do have a friend who hates bananas. My friend Danielle, if you're listening. Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
She would make her husband like zip up the banana peel and put it in the trash, like in a Ziploc
Couldn't
bag.
smell
like,
it.
Couldn't smell it.
Banana peels do make the trash smell quite putrid, so I understand.
See, it's a very specific point of view. When she got pregnant, was obsessed with bananas, was eating banana bread, like became a banana fanatic, like loved bananas, banana hive. And I think that's really insane how your body can.
Did it last after she gave birth?
That's a good question. I should ask her. But she said she was crazy for bananas.
Wow.
And that's how she knew that, like, her husband, they'd made baby together. And that was like,
that's a cute way to know.
DNA.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's really cute. Okay, weirdest thing that you've discovered about pregnancy or like something you didn't know would happen.
Oh, okay. So this is horrifying.
Oh, no.
And I know.
Tell us. We need to know.
So
I'm like,
and it only happens in extremely severe situations. But obviously, I'm on all the pregnancy Reddits, and so two things. I was actually telling John today. I was like, do you know that people love pregnant women and like people are obsessed with them? And when you're really close to full term, they recommend that you don't walk around alone late at night because a lot of pregnant women get kidnapped and abducted for the baby. And he's like, okay, this is like at 7 in the morning. Imagine.
You're waking him up with this information. Yeah.
I was on pregnancy Reddit late last night. Which is just a beautiful, horrifying place.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And the other thing is that your baby, if it's not getting its nutritional needs, will take from you what it's lacking. And this only happens in severe cases. But like, so some women like lose their teeth if there's not enough calcium. Like, yeah. It's like a common thing. Like it's really horrifying and scary
Bodies
to look up as a pregnant woman. But it'll be like, I lost my teeth when I gave birth, and I'm like, no. So
well, it's also like kind of reassuring that you know that your baby's going to be healthy.
Well, that's the thing.
They figure it out.
Like the baby just will take whatever it needs from you, which is why they're like, you need to be on a good prenatal plan. You need to be on this and that, and get all the have all like all your deficiencies met, because otherwise it's going to take it from your body.
Damn.
So, but like the teeth thing really freaked me out.
I
was like, I could have not known this. Yeah. I could have not known this for the rest of my life.
Okay,
there's a crazy TikTok. You should put it in your.
What is it? Tell me.
Put it somewhere. It's like if you look up like baby, like mom losing teeth. There's like a woman who like basically this is how it was like a really big thing. This is like woman was like, she was like, I lost all my teeth, and she like no teeth, and I was like, ah!
We'll put it in the show notes.
We will literally send it to us.
Find it. Okay, I'll send it to you.
Wow.
Okay, last but most importantly, how is sex while pregnant?
Okay, great question. We actually had sex in the first trimester and like caused a bleed, which I don't know if it was directly correlated, but we had sex that morning and then I started like bleeding like crazy that day. And I was like, oh my God, I'm miscarrying, freaking out, went to the doctors. There was like a bleed. They were like, you need to be on bed rest because if this bleed gets bigger, it might like fill the uterus and threaten miscarriage. And then as we're checking out the reception, Evelyn was like, did you guys have sex this morning? She was like, you can't have sex. And we're like,
wait, in the first trimester you can't?
Wait, what?
Oh, see, but that's the thing. It's not that you're not supposed to have sex. It's just it can happen. So she's like, yeah. She's like, this happens. Like, it's common. And I'm like, I did not know this.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, me neither.
I had never heard it either. If you look it up online, there's mixed reviews. Okay. But this is what we were told at the doctors from our experience. And after that, we weren't allowed to have sex. So I can't remember exact. John, do you remember how long we weren't allowed to have sex for?
He's like, I know. I'll give you the hour.
17 days, 4 hours. Yeah.
He was like, this is the longest. I think he actually worked out. Yeah, but we weren't allowed to have sex for like for probably the few weeks. It wasn't that long, but we were like, we can't do this anymore.
No, seriously.
But yeah.
But now you can and it's fine.
Now we totally can and it's all well and great. But we did have a little bit of a scare and apparently I'm not at that stage yet, but it definitely happens where like it increases your libido and like want sex all the time. Right. But I'm not there.
No, I'm going to check in at third trimester and hear how that's going because I hear people
that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, seriously. And then you got to get new pillows. Yeah. You got to figure out a whole new situation.
Oh, we're going to need you to report back. I already have the pregnancy.
Yes. Oh, you just cuddle it all day.
It's amazing. It's the best thing I've ever discovered. This pillow is called the sleep pillow from Kuyuchi because they're like, it's not even a pregnancy pillow.
Sponsor her.
It's a lifestyle pillow.
Sponsor her.
They're like, even if you're pregnant or not, and like, I don't think I'll ever give this pillow up. It is heaven. I am living I will never not
want one.
No, there's been so many times I've almost bought one because pregnant women are like, no, you should just always sleep with this. Like, this is a game changer.
It also helps align your posture.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sleep pillow.
Yeah. I need that.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my God, Amrit, this is everything that I could have possibly needed and more. Let me just say that.
Thank you for having me. Thanks
come back
for having me at
anytime.
a time where I had so much to share.
Oh, thank you for sharing all of this with us. Like, seriously.
Thank you so much for being here. Please come back. We have so much more we could always talk about. Are you kidding?
Always.
This was a
Anytime.
blast.
Love you guys.
We love you.
Love you.
Over memes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Say less.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Thoughts May Vary podcast every Monday.